Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
This is slowly turning the dial. It's not flicking the switch.
Easing restrictions on outdoor gatherings, what you can now do and what you still can't.
Also, as a BC anti-tax guru's hefty fines go unpaid, his bogus schemes are being revived in COVID-19 conspiracy circles.
But I don't feel right about Mum being in a vault on Fort Street.
Phyllis Malcolm wanted to be buried with her late husband. Why more than a year later, her family still doesn't have her ashes.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Reach out to the young people in your life. Remember how important it is to hold them close. And I'll just stop there. It's been a challenging year for us all.
A rare display of emotion from Dr. Bonnie Henry at this afternoon's COVID-19 briefing.
On this, the one-year anniversary of the global pandemic, she reflected and delivered some very welcome news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. Well, this is clearly a day BC's top doctor and many of us have long been waiting for.
BC is easing restrictions on outdoor gatherings. Tanya Fletcher joins us live with more on this. Tanya, what are we now allowed to do?
We are now allowed to gather outside with up to 10 people at a time. Dr. Bonnie Henry today amended the provincial health order, and the province has just updated the official website. Let's take you through some of the examples it now lists online. So up to 10 people may gather at a park or beach. Up to 10 people may gather in the backyard of a residence. Stick to the same people. Don't gather with several different groups, and continue to use layers of protection and maintain physical distancing.
This means your children can have a play date with their friends over the March break, but with their same group of friends. And if they're in school, the group of friends that they're in a cohort with at school. You can meet friends outside and have a coffee, have a chat, have a connection, have a picnic in your park with your grandparents.
She did emphasize above all that gatherings inside are still not allowed. So no dinner parties, no going to your favorite restaurant and trying to hold a big event inside, things like that.
Fair enough. Still good news for sure. Also, next week is St. Patrick's Day and spring break is coming up next week as well. Any new guidance for what we can and can't do then? And what about travel around BC?
Yeah, so travel, that essentially remains the same, the guidance there. Keep it local. Dr. Henry did say it's especially important not to travel from high-risk areas to low-risk areas. That really fuels virus spread between communities around the province. So overall, the guidance is still to stick to your households and stick to day trips as much as possible.
Explore your local community, explore your region. I do think over March break, if you are a family and you're going to your cabin and you're self-contained, that's okay. But we really need to stick to our households, stick to our limited travel.
And as for St. Patrick's Day next week, the province is banning liquor sales from starting at 8 p.m. on March 17th, following through to 9 a.m. the next day on March 18th. It's really similar to the New Year's Eve restrictions that were brought in. It's designed to discourage alcohol-fueled socializing and things like that. Mike, Anita?
All right, Tanya Fletcher live outside tonight, where many people are hoping to soon gather with their group of 10. Thanks, Tanya. And to the south of us, Washington State is also easing some restrictions. Washington's governor announcing today that effective March 22nd, the state will move to phase 3 of its recovery plan. Indoor spaces like restaurants, gyms, and movie theaters will be able to double their current capacity, their occupancy limits to 50%. And spectators will be able to attend professional and high school sporting events. That's for outdoor venues only. Capacity is capped at 25% for larger venues and 50% for smaller ones. Social distancing and face coverings will still be required.
And with the better news about outdoor gatherings in BC, there's also some caution from health officials, especially around COVID variants.
Dan Burrett joins us now live with that part of the story tonight. So, Dan, how big is this concern?
BC still has the second highest case rate of COVID per capita in Canada. And in those cases are the variants, 500 of them in BC, and most are found in Fraser Health. Take a look at this. This is a chart released today from the province. The main variant of concern is the one first detected in the UK. And as you can see, it's being found overwhelmingly in Fraser Health. While Dr. Henry says variants of concern are still rare compared to other diseases, the province is also looking at variant projections. This is what this graph shows. You can see big projections in the middle for Fraser Health. Henry notes variants do pass along through people more frequently, so we need to be careful even as they allow people, again, to gather outdoors.
We can't let these ones take hold. We need to pay attention to those situations where transmission is more common, and that's indoor settings, when we're close together with people, when we're not wearing our masks, when we're talking loudly. Those are the things that we...
And Dan, beyond the variants, some concern tonight about vaccine hesitancy among health workers, notably at a care home in the interior?
Yes, this is one that's already been hit by an outbreak, even though most residents have been vaccinated. The Cottonwoods Care Centre in Kelowna has, at last check, 11 residents and 2 staff who were infected with COVID. Today on CBC Radio's Kelowna Morning Show, interior health officials said 35% of Cottonwoods staff have refused to be vaccinated so far and are still working with vulnerable patients. Officials say workers are wearing full PPE and they wouldn't be able to run the care centre without them. Dr. Henry first suggested staff turnover may be part of this issue, but when pressed about the workers refusing to get vaccinated,
Maybe refused was an unfortunate use of the term. We know there are many reasons why healthcare workers may not have been immunized. And as I mentioned early on, people had a lot of questions, and that's very legitimate. And we have done our best to try and answer those questions.
Henry stresses, overall, the vaccines still work. Mike, Anita?
Dan Burrett live for us tonight. Dan, thank you. Well, COVID vaccination appointments for people 85 and older started earlier than expected today. That's 4 days ahead of schedule. Despite call center mishaps last Monday, Health Minister Adrian Dix says appointments for people over 90 have gone a lot quicker than expected. The First Nations Health Authority has also confirmed that more than 30,000 Indigenous people have been vaccinated. The percentage of COVID-19 cases on BC's reserves has also come down.
We congratulate our communities for the work that they've done, not only in controlling the movement, the compliance with public health measures. There's been a lot of work done at the community level.
The First Nations Health Authority also says it is ramping up its messaging to speak to those in Indigenous communities who are hesitant to get the vaccine.
And parents and students in Vancouver can look forward to more in-person learning time starting at the end of April. The Vancouver School Board has been taking heat from parents, the Minister of Education, and MLAs over the number of teaching hours students receive in this city, Vancouver, compared to other districts. Now, starting on April 26th, the number of in-person learning hours for students will increase. Grade 8 and 9 students will see learning time go up to 2 hours and 45 minutes every day. Students in grade 10 through 12 to 2 hours and 45 minutes 2 days per week, and 1 hour and 45 minutes 3 days per week.
An Abbotsford school with fears about air circulation has had its windows reopened. Back in December, teachers at Godson Elementary discovered their school didn't have proper airflow, so they began opening the windows. But the district said it was a safety issue and screwed shut some of the windows. However, concerns grew after a teacher tested positive for COVID and a class was sent home to self-isolate. WorkSafe BC visited the site February 26th and ordered the windows reopened. Well, plenty of questions from CBC viewers and listeners for health officials last night during our town hall on BC's vaccination plan.
As Mayor Baines reports, the province's top doctor told the Our Shot online audience she's hopeful more of us can get a shot sooner than expected.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. BC's historic immunization plan involves providing vaccination shots to 4 million people in 90 days. A lot of that depends on the province receiving vaccine doses. Many want to know whether the rollout will be done by September.
But once we get the clinics up and running, and many of them have started already, get people booked in, get that sense of, okay, we can get through this, we're going to make it work. I'm really confident that we'll be able to speed things up.
So far, 6% of eligible British Columbians have been vaccinated with 1 dose. The province is expected to receive about 1 million more doses of Pfizer and Moderna over the next 6 weeks. With the amount of doses being available, every eligible adult could get their dose by Canada Day. But what about seniors who have mobility issues?
When they call into our system, there's an algorithm of asking questions of mobility, and if they're not mobile, we will either arrange transportation through our networks, or we will arrange home outreach service.
Lee says Fraser Health is also reaching out to diverse communities in different settings and says it has online virtual ability to translate into more than 200 languages. Dr. Madhu Jawanda has been getting a lot of questions from her patients.
Is it safe for a pregnant woman to take the vaccine? Or can I take the vaccine if I'm thinking about getting pregnant?
We now know they've been used in pregnant women, and we know that pregnant women are more likely to have more severe illness with COVID. So it is doing a risk-benefit analysis.
Others wonder if they'll be moved up in the vaccine queue.
Why doesn't a government listen to disabled people and give us a vaccine right now?
Priority is being given to people with a variety of health conditions, and Dr. Henry can speak to those in detail, including people with developmental disabilities, people in your circumstances, early in phase 3.
And Indigenous communities have been hard hit by COVID-19.
We know that First Nations people are at more significant risk for lots of different reasons. There are higher rates of chronic diseases that may affect their ability to fight off the infection. We have had significant numbers of illness and even death in populations much younger.
Doctors say they don't know yet how long the vaccine will be effective for. The next few months will be a learning process. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
Yeah, it was very productive, very helpful. A lot of great questions from CBC listeners and viewers.
Oh, we had questions pouring in, and I think we got a lot of good answers. I know I learned a lot. And the term of the night was science in action, meaning we're learning as we go with the science around COVID-19 and the vaccination.
Very good.
The deadly COVID-19 virus didn't kill Phyllis Malcolm, but the pandemic has caused a long delay in carrying out her final wishes.
Malcolm wanted her ashes buried on Salt Spring Island beside those of her husband of 68 years.
As Joel Ballard reports, more than a year after Malcolm's death, her executor is refusing to release her remains.
Her only dying wish that's written in her will was to be buried with my dad on Salt Spring Island.
John Malcolm describes his mother Phyllis as a gypsy at heart, living life to her fullest, including nights out on the town into her late 80s.
She was a very spirited, very humorous, loved her grandkids, loved her family.
She died on January 31st, 2020. But Malcolm still hasn't been able to fulfill his mother's wish to be buried with her husband. Phyllis's executor has her remains.
As soon as I started asking for her ashes, he has not given me a reply. It's been over a year now.
The executor is Victoria-based lawyer R.C. Tino DiBella. Calls, emails, texts, all unanswered.
It's the last thing he has to do in his job as executor is to just put her to rest.
Malcolm took his concerns to the Law Society of BC, but it was unable to investigate the complaint. Mr. DiBella failed to respond to our inquiries, resulting in the Law Society issuing a citation that has not yet been scheduled for a hearing by the tribunal. Over the years, the Law Society of BC has investigated DiBella numerous times for, among other things, a lack of timely communication. In 2019, it found that DiBella failed to provide the quality of service expected of a lawyer with another client. He was suspended for 2 months. DiBella did not return calls from CBC News, but in an email, he claims the pandemic has complicated the process. My sincere wish is that the COVID-19 restrictions regarding social gatherings end and allow all families like Miss Malcolm's to gather from near and afar to celebrate her life and honor her final wishes. But when asked why those final wishes, being buried with her husband, couldn't be granted during the pandemic, he didn't respond.
There's no closure.
As executor, DiBella is legally responsible for the ashes, and Malcolm is left without options except going to court, potentially another long wait. Joel Ballard, CBC News, Vancouver.
A lack of seatbelts contributed to the deaths of 2 students killed in a bus accident on Vancouver Island a year and a half ago. That's according to the coroner. The students died when a bus crashed on a gravel logging road on September 13, 2019. The bus was taking a group of the students to the Bamfield Marine Sciences Centre. The coroner's report lists their immediate cause of death as blunt force head trauma and says a lack of seatbelts was a contributing factor. There is a plan to chip seal the gravel road to Bamfield and add other safety upgrades.
A CBC News investigation has found many of the biggest court-ordered fines in BC that have gone unpaid are linked to taxes.
2 of those big fines belong to a Aimaq man who counseled hundreds of people on avoiding their taxes. His legal theories were rejected by the courts and he was sent to prison.
But as Bethany Lindsay reports tonight, his ideas have been revived during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Russell Parisky ran a business called the Paradigm Education Group. He taught people a simple method for avoiding your taxes, claiming that all you had to do was declare yourself a natural person. About 800 people across the country paid for this advice, but a judge called Parisky's theory nonsensical and sentenced him to more than 5 years in prison. He was also ordered to pay about $260,000 in fines. 5 years later, none of those fines have been paid. Parisky has been called the most successful guru of a particular type of pseudo-legal scheme. These bogus ideas suggest that Canadian laws are completely illegitimate. All someone has to do is use the right words to get around the rules. These ideas are experiencing a big revival right now, all thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic. Experts say that some pseudo-legal gurus have latched on to the anti-mask and anti-lockdown movements. Some activists are now arguing that pandemic restrictions simply don't apply to them. Some have even threatened to imprison government officials. But it's important to note that these theories have been tested out in court many times over the years, and so far they've never, ever been successful. Bethany Lindsay, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, here's something a lot of people have been hoping for. A bike lane is returning to Stanley Park.
The motion is carried.
The majority of Vancouver Park Board commissioners voted last night to approve a temporary lane for cyclists on Park Drive until the end of October. The lane was first set up last summer to allow for more physical distancing on the seawall. It also proved contentious. Businesses in the park claimed it cut into sales already hit hard during the pandemic, and some people living with disabilities argued they had less access around the forest. The board has asked staff to have the temporary bike lane ready as soon as operationally reasonable.
And it was a very busy night for North Shore Rescue. The crew teamed up with Whistler Search and Rescue last night to look for a couple of lost skiers caught in an avalanche. The stranded skiers were reached on Thistle Peak, that's southeast of Whistler. And at about the same time, North Shore Rescue also found another 2 lost skiers in Suicide Gully near Mount Seymour. No major injuries were reported.
Meteorologist Johanna Wagstaff is on assignment again this week, so we're joined by Nick Czernkovich here with the forecast. Nick, we got some good news here. We're now allowed some outdoor gatherings, so hoping the weather will stay good for that.
Yeah, no kidding, eh? Well, you know what, heading into the weekend, I think it's going to be perfect. At least on Saturday. Sunday, earlier in the day looks pretty good, but right now we're still sitting under this high pressure. We've got lots in the way of sunshine, and warm weather to boot. Here's a look at what's going on right now. There is this system that I've been talking about over the last few days. It's still pushing up toward the north, though. So we've got special weather statements in effect around the north coast, coastal sections, also out toward Haida Gwaii as well. This for sort of a rain-snow mix for tonight. Rainfall warnings through north coast inland sections. Actually, we've also got dust advisories as well. That likely is part of this high pressure that's in place. It's keeping some of this dust low to the ground. So that's what we're looking at to the north. Down around the Vancouver, Victoria area, really not much going on. We've had a fair deal of sunshine today. Cloud cover just kind of starting to push down here, and it's going to be a bit of a battle there as we head through the next 24 hours in terms of the sunshine versus the cloud cover. Cloud cover kind of drives down for the morning, and then high pressure sort of pushes back. So I think it's going to be a mix of sun and cloud for the day tomorrow. At times more cloudy, but I do think we're going to see the sunshine. There's a look at the forecast through tonight, 1 degree. Double digits for tomorrow, and it does get warmer heading into the weekend. Your full forecast in just a bit.
Outside, we love it. We'll be there on the weekend. Thanks, Nick. Talk to you again shortly. Okay, our show is going to the dogs now. You can call them the Royal Canines, Mutts, and Puppies. Wait for it.
Yes, the RCMP is asking the public to help name their newest four-legged recruits. The RCMP launched its 2021 Name the Puppy contest last month. The contest is being put on by the Lower Mainland's Integrated Police Dog Service.
Kids between ages of 4 and 14 years will have until March 18th to enter their favorite names. Police asking young Canadians to pitch names that start with the letter P for 13 German Shepherd puppies to be born this year.
Got any names?
Oh, I could think of a whole bunch. How about like real people's names? I always like that.
Pierre.
Like Paul. Paul, things like that.
Pierre, Paul.
I'm sure they'll get a lot of brilliant
suggestions. I think our choices are going to be top for sure.
Exactly.
Okay, a reminder, you can watch our newscasts live on CBC Gem.
CBC Vancouver is also on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram.
After the break, marking 1 year since the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a global pandemic. Thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream. Well, if you like making music and have a lot of free space, there's a unique opportunity in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, a church organ is up for grabs in the city of Dartmouth. And as Jack Julian reports, it's absolutely free if you can get it out the door.
It's big, it's loud, and it's free for the taking.
We want to give it away. We don't have use for a pipe organ. It's a beautiful pipe organ, though. We don't want to see it just get thrown away. So we'd like it to go to somebody who can really use it and has a beautiful space for it.
The congregation of the First Baptist Church is moving to a new building, and the next owners plan to use the old church as an art space.
To have people come in and play the organ is amazing. It does take up a lot of space on the stage. So the thought is this opens it up for our use to get other types of performances in here. And again, we're not going to be using the pipe organ enough to sort of keep it all to ourselves. It would be nice to have it somewhere where it's going to be heard every Sunday or something like that. It is costly to maintain, to heat. This entire building is heated basically for the purposes of preserving the pipe organ.
The giveaway notice is up on Facebook, and music lovers are taking note.
We've heard from a lot of people, thousands of people. Yes, oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's a fun story. Not everybody was ready to sort of move it. Many people wanted to just have the opportunity to come in and play it, and which totally makes sense. And yeah, it's really been an overwhelming response.
But dismantling and moving a pipe organ is an expensive proposition. Perhaps as much as $10,000.
I think it is essentially a priceless piece because, again, just the work of knowing how to take it apart, clean it, and put it back together is quite steep. And so it seems like it just passes from sort of person to person is how organs now operate.
Jack Julian, CBC News, Dartmouth.
No room in my place for that.
No space to spare?
No space to spare.
That'll be quite the organ donation, that's for sure. I guess they might have to take out a wall or something to...
I think more than a wall, a few floors maybe.
Exactly. Okay, back in just a couple of seconds. Lots more still to come, including how Canada's doing on the 1-year anniversary of the COVID-19 pandemic. There's a live shot of Vancouver, the North Shore Mountains, on this Thursday night at 6:24. Well, on this anniversary of the global pandemic, weary Canadians can only brace for what might be next. Few could have fathomed 1 year ago that COVID-19 would take well over 22,000 Canadian lives.
But there have been many more recoveries, nearly 850,000. As Alison Northcott reports, flags were lowered today out of respect as people across the country mourn those who didn't survive.
Bells rang out across Quebec to honor the memory of more than 10,000 people who have died in the province from COVID-19. It's the highest death toll of any province, and at ceremonies today in Quebec City and Montreal, politicians, grieving family members, and healthcare workers gathered.
It just came very fast, and it took our people very fast. Today, I have that opportunity to say goodbye.
Nos soignants, soignantes.
Premier François Legault recognized the contributions of healthcare and essential workers and pointed to the particular toll the pandemic has taken on seniors. Quebec remembers all those people who left us much too quickly, he says. Across the country, the virus has killed more than 22,000 people and left so much grief, so many isolated.
Reach out to the young people in your life. Remember how important it is to hold them close.
Thank you, in Edmonton, gold flowers laid in memory of hundreds of Albertan seniors and calls for better care for the elderly. A long line of candles marks the loss of 640 people in Winnipeg, and in St. John's, flags were lowered to half-mast.
There truly were people that walked into the room and just made it brighter.
Ian Perez lost his parents, Frank and Doris, after an outbreak at their Montreal long-term care home.
We've not had a funeral. We were able to basically say a prayer over FaceTime over their caskets.
He says governments need to learn from the thousands of deaths in long-term care and invest in fixing long-standing problems.
When COVID came along, it was the perfect storm because they didn't have adequate health and safety protocols. They didn't have enough staffing, and I don't actually blame the healthcare workers for this. I think it's the lack of funding. They were doing the very best they could in a very broken system.
Today, he says, is important to remember his parents and all the victims while he waits for the chance to say a proper goodbye. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
India is reporting 23,000 new COVID-19 cases tonight, the biggest jump in daily infections in 3 months.
As Salima Shivji reports from India, with 11 million total infections already, the spike could pose a bigger challenge as large religious festivals are underway.
This is Kumbh Mela, one of the Hindu religion's most important festivals. And this holy day actually happens only once every 12 years, where a crush of people are here, some 30 million expected, all to take a dip in the holy Ganges River in order to wash away their sins. Now, this year, the festival, of course, is taking place in the shadow of a global pandemic. And you can see there are few attempts to keep back the spread of the virus at this festival. Very few masks in sight, not a lot of social distancing. It's virtually impossible to physical distance out here. And there are only a couple of people walking around offering up hand sanitizer, but really not a lot of takers. And if you talk to a lot of the people here, they're really not worried about COVID-19.
Nobody is infected here. Nobody. And even if they are, once they dip in, they're all pure. Their impurity is gone. There is no COVID here.
But for public health officials, of course it is a worry. Never mind this gathering. There have also been a lot of political gatherings across India as there are 4 state elections going on. And in many parts of the country, it's as if the pandemic doesn't exist at all. There actually was a very sharp drop in infections in India at the beginning of this year, leaving many experts puzzled and some musing about herd immunity. But those on India's COVID-19 task force say, wait a second, not so fast. Herd immunity is a myth that's far away.
You're really not seeing all of India crossing even the 40% threshold. And we do not know what the herd immunity threshold for this particular virus is.
Cases are now going up again in about a dozen states here in India. And he says that India's natural advantages in the face of COVID-19, the fact that it's such a warm climate, so many young people, so many people live outside in the countryside, are sort of fading away if those important measures such as masks and physical distancing are abandoned. Salima Shivji, CBC News, in the Indian state of Uttarakhand.
Prince William is denying accusations of racism leveled against the royal family, for the first time directly addressing the controversy since the explosive Oprah interview.
Renee Filipponi has details on why some say the response doesn't go nearly far enough.
Engaging with the public is an ordinary occurrence for the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. And when reporters yell controversial questions, royals usually don't respond. But this week has been anything but normal. Today, Prince William did.
Sir, have you spoken to your brother since the interview?
No, I haven't spoken yet, but I will do.
And can you just let me know, is the royal family a racist family, sir?
No, we're very much not a racist family.
A short response, but the first to come directly from a senior royal following Sunday's Oprah interview.
Personally, I think it was a good thing to do. I think people have been waiting to see something a little more forceful by way of response than the palace statement.
Earlier this week, the palace would only say allegations of racism within the family were concerning, but would be addressed privately.
When you say "unwell," what did you mean?
In the bombshell interview, Meghan and Harry claimed a member of the family raised concerns about how dark their son's skin would be, and said the family didn't do enough to address the racism directed at Meghan by the press.
Yet no one from my family ever said anything over those 3 years. That hurts.
I think denial is a very bad place to begin.
This professor of post-colonial studies says she is disappointed by what she calls Prince William's simplistic response to that direct question.
I think that the family is being asked to think about race and to think about whiteness and to think about their relationship to, empire and colonialism and the history of race in the British monarchy. I think to reduce it to we are or we are not racist, I think it's a real shame.
Early on, the couple were seen as a bright spot in the traditional monarchy and an opportunity for a more diverse future. But for now, those hopes have been shattered and the palace is in damage control. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, London.
A grim anniversary in Japan. Just ahead, the lasting impact of the deadly Fukushima disaster 10 years later.
There was a loud and angry protest at the Vancouver Aquarium today. The protesters are upset about the death this week of a newborn killer whale. As Karen Mason reports, that death has the aquarium reviewing its entire killer whale program.
Demonstrations like this are fairly commonplace at the aquarium, but these protesters say the death of yet another whale gives an old message a new sense of urgency.
God damn it, when are they going to let them go? When are they going to realize that these animals are suffering for our entertainment?
There have been at least 23 deaths of cetaceans at the Vancouver Aquarium and not one single successful birth since 1964.
It was just 3 days ago that Biosa the killer whale gave birth. Almost immediately it became clear something was wrong. The baby didn't swim to the surface. Biosa's repeated attempts to lift her up for that crucial first breath of air were futile. Since the birth, Biosa hasn't strayed far from her calf's body, which remains at the bottom of the pool.
she's doing two things that are pure instinct. She's protecting it, and she's trying to get it to nurse. In the third day of a calf's life, it would still be learning how to nurse correctly. She still would be teaching it, and she's doing that.
So far, the aquarium has chosen not to go in and retrieve the body until Biosa chooses to leave it.
She's a very large, dominant, aggressive whale, and she weighs 5,000 pounds, and we're not about to risk a human by putting a diver in with her.
This is the third calf Biosa has lost in just 7 years. Her first baby was born in 1988. It survived only 22 days. A second calf born in 1991 lived just a few months. Critics say that track record is proof enough the whales should be freed. But statistics show about 43% of killer whale calves born in the wild also die. People visiting the aquarium had mixed feelings on the issue.
I enjoy seeing them here, but I really do think they should build a bigger habitat for them.
I don't think it's realistic to release them because I don't think they'll survive out in the wild, but I don't think it's right to keep them in captivity here.
The killer whale program is being reviewed. A committee is looking at everything from making the pool larger to not allowing Biosa to become pregnant again. Karen Mason, CBC News, Vancouver.
Some of the stories we're following tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
We need to have focus on some of the things we can do and can do safely. And outdoors is where we need to focus right now.
Starting today, you can now gather outside in groups of up to 10 people, the same 10 people. This follows months of restrictions on social gatherings in our province. Other restrictions remain in place, though. Dr. Bonnie Henry says only people who are part of the same household can still meet indoors, including at restaurants.
A CBC News investigation has found many of the biggest court-ordered fines in BC that have gone unpaid are linked to taxes. 2 of those big fines belong to a Chilliwack man who counseled hundreds of people on avoiding their taxes. His legal theories were rejected by the courts and he was sent to prison. Now, his bogus schemes have been revived by conspiracy theorists during the pandemic. Well, Japan is observing a grim anniversary today. Officials and victims' family members gathered to mark 10 years since the deadly Fukushima disaster.
More than 18,000 people were killed when a major earthquake and tsunami destroyed towns and crippled a nuclear plant. It triggered a meltdown at the Fukushima Daiichi plant. The nuclear emergency forced tens of thousands of residents to flee their homes. Today, anti-nuclear protesters rallied outside the headquarters of the operator of that power plant.
10 years on, many Japanese communities are still struggling. 160,000 people had to flee the disaster zone. Many were forced from their homes because of radiation from the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant.
I thought it was smoke from fires. It was not like the usual white waves. It was black, as though it had scooped everything from the bottom of the sea.
The road to recovery has been long and costly. The Japanese government has spent 30 trillion yen, or nearly 375 billion Canadian dollars. And it has taken time. Entire communities had to be rebuilt further inland or at a higher elevation.
I saw 2 to 3 people being carried away by the waves over there. I climbed up to that high ground on the other side and survived.
Some 40,000 evacuees have yet to return home. In Fukushima, there remains a sizable red zone where homes have not been deemed fully safe. At a memorial ceremony in Tokyo, the Japanese Prime Minister pledged to get those people back to life as normal. But many survivors aren't sure they're ready to return, either because they don't feel it's safe or because those homes don't feel like home anymore.
I lost a few of my relatives and aunt. I still question why I did not call them and ask them to evacuate with me.
As for the crippled nuclear power plant, decommissioning is still a long way out. There had been plans this year to start removing radioactive debris from the reactors, but the pandemic caused problems, and now that is delayed months or even longer.
But it has already been 10 years and still, it's looking like it's going to take another 30 to 40 years.
The operator says that the full process should be done in the 2050s. But for many victims of this unprecedented triple disaster, that means far too long for people that have already had to survive so much. Elise Gura, CBC News, Tokyo.
A Richmond native climbs his way to the top in the NCAA Western Conference. After the break, Fardaz Aimaq is live with us to talk basketball and what it's like being named Player of the Year.
20 to 7 on this Thursday night, a live look up Cambie Street, south from the CBC building in Vancouver. Another gorgeous day on the South Coast, but is the sun going to be sticking around tomorrow? And what about the weekend? Nick's going to let us know next.
No. You're getting tired? Hi guys, welcome to another video from Fit and Eat. We have with us Steven and Sadie and what's my name? Lucy. And today we're going to exercise like what are we going to exercise? Animals! So, get to your inner animal spirit and work out with us. Bear walk. Okay, first we're going to do the bear walk. Frog jump. All right, so feet a bit wide. Ready? Jump. What are you doing? Bunny hop. So hang them down and you hop your feet. Crab walk is next. Norman! Okay, lie down. No. We forgot to introduce Norman in the video, didn't we? No. Can we show them who Norman is? And this is Norman. Who's going outside? I already did that. What did you? Keep your bum up high. Yeah, good. Now we are going to walk like a duck. So hover down really low. Keep your arms up and waddle. Me and my little duckling. Next is called Crouching Tiger. All right, so we'll go. There are our videos for today. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining in. I hope you have fun being an animal. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. No, watch it. Yeah, I don't know what's over there. Yep.
Well, a young basketball upstart from Richmond has just made history in U.S. collegiate hoops.
Fardaws Aimaq going to try and go 1v1 against O'Cherry. Beautiful move. It gets the roll with the left hand.
Fardaws Aimaq has just been named the Men's Basketball Player of the Year in the Western Athletic Conference. He's been leading the Utah Valley Wolverines to many victories in the NCAA division. This season, he has been setting records as the first NCAA player to average 15 rebounds per game since 1980. He's also ranked first in the league for the highest number of total rebounds. And many are saying these are impressive career stats and honors that could pave his way to the NBA. And Fardaws himself joins us live tonight from Las Vegas. Thanks for being on the show tonight.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
What a journey it's been for you. I mean, you've had your beginnings here in BC, graduated from Steveston, London, and Richmond. What has this whole experience been like from BC to Utah, being a Canadian and doing so well down there?
For me personally, I mean, it's been great. No complaints. Everything that I've gone through has been a blessing or some sort of learning. I've cherished, all the memories and, every memory I've made from my BC days till now. Sitting right here in a hotel room, about to play tomorrow. And that feeling that I have, the day before a game is the same feeling I had when I was a 16-year-old kid, about to play in the provincial finals 5 years ago. So, I mean, it's definitely been a blessing for myself.
Defensive Player of the Year, first player in more than 40 years to average 15 rebounds per game, highest ranking player in the U.S. with the total number of rebounds. How do all the accolades feel?
Obviously, I'm a player that I don't play for stats necessarily. I don't really think about the accolades, but to obviously be recognized, towards the end of the year is a huge accomplishment, for myself. And the biggest thing I can take away from it is, without my coaches or my teammates, none of this would be possible. So obviously I'm very grateful. We still have work to do. A big win tomorrow and a big win Saturday would give us a bid to the NCAA tournament, which is what we've been, working for all year. And those accolades and everything is just a stamp on the resume that helps out once I'm done with college, and try to pursue a professional career.
A pretty good stamp to have, I'm sure. We've seen British Columbians in the NCAA and in the NBA before, but there aren't a lot. So what's it like being in the minority down there, not just as a British Columbian, but as a Canadian? Do they give you a hard time for being a Canuck?
I mean, not really. I definitely rep myself pretty proudly out here. I mean, guys make fun of me all the time. Like I'll do certain things that like people don't really do out here, or like I'll just do like simple stuff. Some of the stuff that I eat, ketchup and eggs, and like people just freak out and they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Where I'm from, that's just kind of normal."
Is that a Canadian thing?
I mean, I think so.
Awesome. So do you have any advice for other kids from British Columbia that are, dying to be in your footsteps? I know basketball is really picking up in our province. So what's your advice to those kids?
My biggest advice is, I know right now it's tough with the pandemic, but no matter the situation, I think the biggest thing, especially as a young kid, not listening to, a lot of people that have, whether, it could be positive or negative opinions, just having an opinion on yourself and working every single day. I think that's the biggest thing. Growing up as a kid from, BC, Vancouver, a lot of people told me, the dreams that I had. I had a dream to play Division I basketball as a young kid. And a lot of people were like, this is not something that you should do. You should stick out here, focus on school, blah, 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 whatever it is. But I stuck to the process every single day, put in the work every single day, and it's paid off. So to a young kid, I'll tell them, continue to work every single day. Academics, make sure you're grinding every single day. And at the end, hard work will pay off.
Great advice, and good luck to you. We're looking forward to watching what you accomplish. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay, Nick is here. We know it may not be a slam dunk, but we'll put the full court press on you, Nick, in the hope we may we may see some sunshine over the next couple of days.
Yeah, I like it. I can't top that though. But yeah, we've got lots in the way of sunshine. I mentioned, we've got this sort of battle between the cloud cover that's pushing in from the north and the high pressure that's pushing up from the south, and we're sitting right on the edge of it in Vancouver. Now today, good deal of sunshine. Temperatures, though, still in the single digits. The reason, the winds coming off of the water. I think that's going to change, though, over the next 24. We're sitting at 6 degrees right now. Cloud cover, high cloud cover just starting to push in right now. I mentioned some warnings up to the north. This is the next system that we're watching. That one coming for Sunday. But for now, this is where the special weather statements and rainfall warnings sit. Of course, I mentioned the dust advisories in effect as well. So here's a look at the forecast. Low pressure kind of continues to push southward, but it's being held at bay as we head through tomorrow morning. Cloud cover still just kind of driving a line right along the Vancouver area. As we head through the afternoon, though, I think we're actually going to see hints of sunshine in there. So a mix of sun and cloud for tomorrow. And then it looks like it kind of retreats into Saturday and then through Sunday. This is where the models differ a little bit. This particular model actually showing Sunday as dry and sunny. There's another couple models that are showing the rainfall moving in just through the later afternoon. So still sort of unclear on the timing at this point, but it looks like sort of Sunday, later afternoon into the evening is when we might see some showers with it. For tomorrow, though, lots in the way of sunshine across the province and fairly mild temperatures as well, although coastal rain still. We've got the risk of a few showers out toward the Comox area and as you head further to the west there toward Tofino as well. Now, for Vancouver, mix of sun and cloud tomorrow, 11 degrees, 13 on Saturday. And again, don't forget to change the clocks forward Saturday night into Sunday. We've got the chance for some evening showers on Sunday, though. But as we kick off next week, once more, doesn't look too bad. Mike and Anita.
Not bad. Thanks, Nick.
You bet.
Well, Montreal's Gay Village now wants people to refer to it as simply the Village.
Yeah, the Streets Merchant Association says it wants to make the area more inclusive, representing the two-spirited and LGBTQ plus community.
But as Chloe Rinaldi reports, people have mixed feelings about the name change.
Montreal's Gay Village is the largest in North America, known for its nightlife and pride festivities. But it's looking to make the area even more welcoming.
To just include everyone, that you be a cultural minority, that you be part of the 2S LGBTQ community, or just a Montrealer. I think that this becomes a better community for everyone.
The Local Merchants Association commissioned a study last year. It found that some groups didn't feel represented in the Gay Village, so it's dropping the word gay and changing the name to the Village, promoting the area as a safe space for the 2S LGBTQ plus community, a move many welcomed.
Rather than labeling it gay, it helps to let people come here and feel welcome. And it's not only gay anyway, it's very mixed.
Like, gay has always been like an umbrella term, but now it's like...
We're trying to be more inclusive.
Exactly.
Yet some worry it's erasing some of the history of the neighborhood.
I think the Gay Village had its own sort of tradition with its own name that I feel like changing its name changes its identity.
But the association says the neighborhood has changed and the new name reflects the progress that has been made.
We're not erasing the gayness of the village. We're not also erasing the history and all the struggles. They did a great job at creating this safe space for the gay community. We just think that maybe at this point we need to include all the people, and there's been great changes as well in these communities and how they identify themselves.
LaFleur says there are also plans to promote the 2S LGBTQ plus community within the village. Chloe Rinaldi, CBC News, Montreal.
Well, the pandemic has inspired many of us to try some new hobbies. Coming up, a 15-year-old turns her love for making chocolate bombs into a way to help others.
Rock and roll and guitars are an obsession for Lou Skinner. He's not your average guitar player or collector. Lefty Lou Skinner is one of Newfoundland and Labrador's rock and roll pioneers.
First band was 4 teens, there were 4 of us, and then it was the 5 teens. Somebody quit at 14 and the hell with this, we gotta get a name, right? So I came across a pack of candy back in the late 50s, 59, I think, and said, I suppose pronounce it ducats, but now being Newfoundland, ducats, I say it the way I look at it. So that's what we went with. That's how we come up with the name. Collecting, I got into that in the mid-70s. I got a guitar here that my grandmother gave me for passing grade 8. Some people dispute that. I did get grade 8.
When he wasn't rocking out on stage, Lou Skinner was buying, selling, and trading guitars with collectors all over the world. One day he received a call about his rare 1963 Gibson J180 Everly Brothers signature guitar.
Max called me. Max was in Wales. They said, Lou, I understand you got a guitar there and Everly Brothers and all that. I said, yep. He said, I got a friend of mine up here that I do some work with. Paul McCartney is interested in buying it. They're doing a video of yesterday, and he's going to be sitting on the bar stool. Linda's going to be on the floor. You get the picture? I said, yeah. He said, well, you got the only left-handed Everly Brothers guitar. And he loves that guitar. He loves those guitars, but he don't want to buy a new one. I said, okay. I said, I'll tell you what. You have the money in my account tomorrow morning, and I'll sell it to him. Oh, my God. Good, he said, we'll be back to you. 11 o'clock next morning, girl called me from Bangor, Nova Scotia and said, Mr. Skinner, we got $10,000 here for you.
Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away.
Guitars may come and go from his collection, but one thing that'll never leave is Lou Skinner's love for playing.
Nobody in the world can master the guitar. Every time you pick it up, you learn something different. Every time you pick it up, you learn you're playing something wrong. And all the guitars got a different story. They all play different. They all sound different. Keeps me busy.
Well, 1 year in, the pandemic has inspired new pastimes, hobbies, and businesses.
A Montreal teen now spends her days and nights preparing chocolate treats for clients, charities, and frontline workers.
As she told Kabuina Oduro, it's all about giving back.
White chocolate, milk chocolate.
Around Christmas time, Vanessa Seabag decided to take on a new passion project, creating chocolate bombs.
I begged my mom, let's do this, mom, please.
Inspired by viral videos on social media, she decided to launch her own business, Chocolate Heaven.
My favorite, I could say, I like my chocolate bombs.
Now, with the waiting list of clients, she says that it's taken over all of her free time and even her parents' kitchen.
You open cupboards, there's chocolates. You open where my washers, there's molds everywhere. Open my fridge, there's chocolate bombs everywhere.
I mean, they don't have the choice. That's how it is, and that's how it's gonna be. If they want, they could buy a new fridge, but this is my space, my space.
Seabag has even recruited her parents to help.
My mom stays up with me until 2, 3 in the morning to make sure I'm keeping on track. She sometimes calls orders. When I'm in school, she goes open the door to clients.
But it's not all about the money. Seabag also gives some of the chocolate and the profits to help charities and frontline workers.
My principle, it's always to give back before getting. I'm always gonna, when I do a big order, I'm always gonna take a 10% or 20% and give to frontline workers.
She's my angel, and I love her.
Esther Levy is the founder of Esther's Angels, a nonprofit that provides essential services and items for families in need. She is the first person Seabag called offering to make them 90 chocolate bombs.
And actually, she answered all the calls. I received so many calls. Esther, can we have that cake, that chocolate? And all the time she said yes.
Just in my mind to think that I helped makes me feel like so good to myself.
Seabag says she doesn't know what the future will hold. One day, she's hoping to open up her own store. But for now, it's all about putting a smile on people's faces. Cubino Oduro, CBC News, Montreal.
Delightful. Have you had a chocolate bomb?
Oh, not for a long time. They don't really agree with my waistline, to be honest with you. But you know what? Everything in moderation every once in a while. But that's nice. She's doing a lot of good for charities back there, for sure.
For sure. All right, that's it for our show tonight. You can watch it anytime online at cbc.ca/BC.
Our next local news right here at 11 with Dan Burrett after the National. Thanks for watching tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Good night.